A quorum being present, we will be led in opening reflection by President and CEO of the Mental Health Awareness of Eastern Missouri, Sue King, in observance of Mental Health Awareness Month.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me here this morning to share a reflection as we kick off Mental Health Awareness Month. I did not expect y'all to stand. You can sit if you really want to. I'm Sue King, President and CEO of Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri, and we're excited this year to be celebrating our 80th year, our 80th anniversary of providing service and support for our community. Our dream is simple but yet profound: to help build a thriving community and empower people by revitalizing our approach to mental health support one life at a time. We work toward our mission through a clinical program for children birth through age 18, our student wellness program for youth grades 5 and above, and through community advocacy and education. This year's theme, Turn Awareness into Action, invites us to move beyond understanding mental health challenges and towards taking meaningful steps to promote mental health for ourselves, for others, and our communities. On June 28, 2019, I lost my brother Paul, whom I affectionately called Poops, to depression and alcoholism. Over the years, I would get the call, "Your brother's not responding to any text or calls." I dreaded those moments. I each time feared that this would be the day that I could not get him help, that I could not find him, or that I could not bring him back to recovery. Paul's disease carried with it the unbearable pain of isolation, loneliness, misunderstanding, and even anger from those of us who cared so deeply for him, but yet felt so powerless to help him change the path. There is still so much shame and stigma surrounding both addiction and mental illness. That stigma often forces people to hide their pain, even from those who are closest to them. I'm sharing Paul's story because I spoke at his funeral, and afterwards a couple that was close friends of my parents took my mom out to check on her. The husband very quietly shared that he had lived with depression his entire life and had been in and out of hospitals because of suicide thoughts or attempts. My mom was shocked. She had no idea. He had hidden it their entire adult life. He's now sharing his story because I was okay in sharing our story. That's how powerful stigma and shame can be. People suffer in silence. Families suffer in silence. And far too often, we lose those to that silence. Paul's death from this disease is no different than if he had died from cancer or diabetes, both of which run in our family. But like every person living with mental illness, Paul was far more than his diagnosis. He was adventurous, inventive, funny, and loving, and he deserved more. At the core of our work at Mental Health America is the commitment to finding light in the darkness, and most importantly, to holding hope, especially for those who can no longer see the light in themselves. Hope is not a passive emotion. It is a powerful force that urges us to believe in something beyond the pain of the present. Hope compels action. It challenges us to become architects of change and stewards of compassion. Hope is also contagious. When we share it, we inspire others. Our hope has the power to lift others from despair, to spark community change, and to create a ripple effect far beyond what we can imagine. In the words of Desmond Tutu, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. And now I just want to close with a prayer. Loving Creator, Spirit of the Life, Source of Peace, as we begin this month of awareness and advocacy, we ask for courage to face what is unseen, wisdom to listen deeply, and compassion to serve with open hearts. May we honor every child, every adult, every neighbor whose struggles may be hidden. Let our words bring comfort, our actions bring change, and our presence bring hope. Remind us that no one is alone and that healing is possible through connection, through care, and through love. We hold space today for all who carry invisible burdens. May they find light, support, and rest. Amen. As I leave here today, I'd ask you to think about how you can hold hope and turn awareness into action. Our community and country are facing astronomical funding cuts at the federal level that will trickle down to our state level and our local level. These cuts are threatening the future of our children, especially through the education systems, through special school district, Head Start, Early Head Start, Medicaid, Social Security. These cuts will have both short and long-term impacts that will last generations. And I ask you to think about what can everyone in this room do to stop this? We have to be there for our kids. Our future, their future, depends on it. Thank you for being a light in the darkness, for being here, and for doing this work. Thanks.
We will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. Alderman from the 3rd, you're recognized in the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of Resolution 16.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 16.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 16. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devote. Alderwoman Velasquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman
Aye.
Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd.
Hello.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Alderman Aldrich. President Green.
Aye.
We have 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd. If you could please place resolution number 16 at the end of the courtesy resolution calendar.
Noted.
And with that, we will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. If Alderman Aldridge would like to approach the dais for the presentation of Dr. Mahdi. All right, sorry, my agenda is backwards. If Alderwoman from the 7th would like to approach the dais for presentation of resolution number 14, honoring Dr. Mahdi.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Madam Clerk, may you read the resolution?
Resolution number 14, recognizing the service and legacy of Dr. Matefisa Lesueo. Dr. Matefisa Lesueo Davis, affectionately known as Dr. Mahdi, was appointed Director of Health for the City of St. Louis in September 2021, bringing a wealth of invaluable wisdom that guided the city through the COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing public health crisis created by gun violence. And whereas born and raised in Harare, Zimbabwe, Dr. Mahdi pursued higher education in the United States, earning degrees in chemistry, biology, medicine, and public health, completing residency in Cleveland and a fellowship in infectious diseases, Washington University in St. Louis, specializing in HIV and STI care and calling inspired by the passing of her father. And whereas Dr. Mahdi is foremost the devoted mother of Inini and Naniso, daughter of Marceline, I'm so sorry, Mubika Kenan, and the late Zimbabwean liberation hero, Comrade Mayo Gaylord Thimba Lesweo, and the loving wife of Dr. Jess Davis. And whereas Dr. Mati's deep expertise in infectious disease prevention made her a shero during pandemic and passionate advocate for mental and physical health in the city. And whereas under her leadership, the Department of Health earned reaccreditation from the Public Health Accreditation Board and increased staffing by 36%. And whereas she established the city's first behavioral health bureau, reinvesting $2 million in ARPA funds and $2.6 million in opioid settlement funds into community-based partners to address addiction and mental health, including distributing over 14,000 doses of Narcan and opening a first-of-its-kind behavioral health urgent care center in partnership with SSM Health and Places for People. And whereas Dr. Mati also founded the department's first community outreach and communications bureau, which connected with more than 13,000 residents in 2024 alone to increase public awareness and engagement. And whereas through the Family, Community, and School Health Bureau, Dr. Mati advanced reproductive equity by expanding access to trusted community-rooted doula care, launching a pilot program to improve maternal and child care outcomes, and advocating for policies that uplift and protect birthing people and families. And whereas she championed more than 60 health-related bills and improved conditions at the St. Louis City Justice Center by creating a City Justice Center Health Bureau focused on intake screenings, detox services, and suicide preventions. And whereas to address medical service and pharmacy deserts, Dr. Mati partnered with Greater Health Pharmacy and leveraged ARPA funds to expand mobile health clinics serving more than 13,000 residents in 2024. And whereas Dr. Mati leaves the Department of Health stronger, more innovative, and better positioned to serve the people of St. Louis than when she arrived, and she will long be remembered as the city's community doctor. And whereas, while her departure is a significant loss, Dr. Mati's vision, leadership, and legacy will continue to impact St. Louis for generations to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the City of St. Louis Board of Aldermen, do hereby express our boundless gratitude and immense appreciation to Dr. Matifiza Lesweo Davis, and we pause in our deliberations to recognize her exceptional service and contributions to the health and well-being of the City of St. Louis. We further direct the clerk of this Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and to prepare a commemorative copy of this resolution to the end that it may be presented to those deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 9th day of May 2025 by the Honorable Alicia Sanye, Alderman of the 7th Ward. Co-sponsors, Honorable Megan Green, President of the Board, Honorable Pamela Boyd, Alderman of the 13th, Honorable Shane Cohn of the 3rd Ward, Michael Browning of the 9th Ward, Alderwoman Vanzela Velasquez of the 6th Ward, Alderman Brett Narayan of the 4th, Alderman Thomas Oldenburg of the 2nd, Alderman Ann Schweitzer of the 1st Ward, and the Honorable Shamim Clark Hubbard of the 10th Ward, and also Alderwoman Laura Keys of the elevated 11th Ward, adopted this 9th day of May 2025 as attested by Terry Kennedy, Clerk of the Board of Aldermen, and Megan Green, President of the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I think that the roaring applause is just a sign of a job well done. This resolution was very difficult to write because Dr. Mati has done so much in her career. I mean, I had just such an amazing time writing this and learning so much more about your journey and your story, and I tried to make it as encompassing because I think once you learn about Dr. Madi's story, when you learn what inspired her to get into medicine, you can understand why her commitment to our city and her commitment to public health and equity is unwavering. There's a couple things that couldn't make it into the administration, but I promised your team that I would lift up. So I think it's important to think at a time where our city is really struggling what innovative leadership would look like. And Dr. Madi has doubled the size of her department during her time here. She has one of the lowest rates of vacancy within her department. She has created a behavioral health bureau in the city of St. Louis. She has gotten mobile vans to go out and look to mental health and look to reproductive justice care. It's really hard for me to just name the things that she has done. And so I'm really proud of everything on this paper, of every accolade, of every degree. But what I hope people watching this will take from this, and I think, honestly, especially Black women, the thing that I really want to commend Dr. Madi for is actually what she's doing today. There's a lot of times where there are expectations, especially what's going on in this world, that we save the day, that we fix every problem, that we give of ourselves wholly. And what Dr. Madi is demonstrating is that we also have the right to rest, that there does come a point where you have put in a work, you have done everything you have done, and you have earned the right to take a step back. And so I want to commend Dr. Madi for giving of herself wholly while she was in service of us. But I also want to commend you for having the power and the courage to publicly say, I'm ready for a little breather. I'm ready for a little break because I think that's necessary. I think that's when you get the most healthy versions of leadership. I think that's what sustainable models of leadership look like. And I think that's what some folks need. So I just cannot express, you know, that I love you. I love you. We're going to be locked in forever. I'm so inspired by your models of equity, by your innovation, by your team. We've had so many meetings about your budget, about different things that's going on. And I think especially to take the mantle during a global pandemic has its challenges, and you totally rose to the surface. And so I commend you. I know some of my colleagues want to say some things, but I just want to give you another round of applause for both what's on the paper, but also for your personal ability to recognize what you need and to fill your own cup. And we thank your husband and your children for sharing you with us, but I know they've got to be excited to have you at home.
Kuna mai wangu ndinokupai nokudai, just sending a message to my mother who will be watching this from Johannesburg, who would do anything to be here today. She'd be sitting at the back of the room, she'd be wearing a matching print, and she'd be mouthing for me to slow down. I sit on her shoulders. She is the hero of my story. A single Black mother from a small country in Africa. There's nothing about my story that should have me standing here today, but God and the love and prayer of Marsha Cannon, Marsha Mbika, my mother, my day one. I want to give honor to my two sisters, Rutendo Hlachwayo Nyati. She bought me this dress for my birthday, and I was a couple of pounds lighter, so y'all gonna let me have it today. But I had to wear a little love from her to my sister Miranda, and in her honor, I made sure that I didn't put too much mascara or overdo my eyeliner so she wouldn't have to get me today. I want to say to all of you, it has been the honor of my lifetime to serve as the Director of Health of this city. I love the city, but I love my people. I love my community. And I took this job only because I have an unapologetic and unwavering love for my people. And so I took this job for that reason. I have carried this job with pride. I have not always made the right steps, but what I am honored to say is that every member of this board has been a partner. You showed me grace, you spoke to me with respect, you held me accountable, and you supported the work. I truly want to thank you. Alderman Tyus invited me to the first meeting ever with any alder people. Every single one of you has worked with me Alderwoman Saunier, your love and your passion for maternal child health, mental health, and our people has kept me going. Alderman, please excuse me. Rasheen Aldridge, you have been a brother, a friend, and a leader. Alderwoman Shamim Hubbard-Clark, Alderwoman Pam Boyard, so many of you. I could name every single member of this board. I want to thank y'all for supporting me along the way. But if there is one thing you will do, I'm not about words that go on a piece of paper for a day and a couple of photos. If you really believe that I did a good job, if you really say you value public health, I will rest and I will not be a problem for y'all if you do two things for me. One, take care of my people. Take care of my people. Those are my family. I worked my off to almost double the size of this department. They are scared. They have come to another national crisis, and the government is threatening to cut at least 30% of my department if all of these federal cuts happen. I have provided a cost-neutral plan to save every single health worker in the Director of Health. I submitted it in February, and I submitted it again within the first week of the election. With it, I provided a template for every other department in the city to use. There is no reason for us not to be prepared to save my people. Take care of my people, and we good. The second thing I would ask for is every year, everybody tells me what a great job I do. Every year, everybody says they value public health. But my budget and the resources and the proposals do not reflect it. They say, and my good friend Kristen Simpson says, that when public health works, it's silent. I've made it work, so it's silent. But when public health is in danger, people die. There is no in-between. Within this week, I announced the first case of measles within the city of St. Louis. It is here. So now is the time. Public health is no longer silent. So enough with the platitudes, enough with the meetings, enough with smiling in my face and telling me how I did a good job. If you care about the work of public health, then we're going to see this budget reflect it. And we're going to see the workers, the true public health heroes, the people that should, this resolution should just have the names of every single worker in the health department. Those are my two requests. If you honor my legacy, you will honor me with those two requests. And with my final words, I want to thank Mayor Jones for giving me the opportunity to have this seat, for believing in me. And I wish this administration the best. I gave notice because the entire time I'm working on a transition plan to support the success of this administration and the continued success of the Department of Health. Thank you.
Any further discussion, Alderman from the 3rd?
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mahdi, this is a really bittersweet moment. Every chapter must come to an end, and every journey has a new beginning. And yours is definitely going to be bright. I know that. The hard work and dedication that you put into this city has been immeasurable. That resolution just can't encompass everything that you have done. Some of my personal experiences working with you, and one of the things that I really would like to call out is not just what's in that resolution, but healthcare and community care and the welfare of the people shall be the supreme rule of the land is something that is our state motto. But I think that you carry that with you in your heart and your work. And we saw it every single day, whether that was you coming to our town halls or whether that was you having your team, your people in our community doing training on Narcan, doing the work to make sure that we are saving lives in the city has just had a tremendous impact. In the 3rd Ward, one of the things that you and the previous administration worked with me on was actually getting an appropriation for FQHCs to expand their footprint in the city of St. Louis, and it doesn't get talked about enough. That is a huge, huge deal for low and mod income families throughout our entire city, that we're able to expand the footprint of those FQHCs. They provide vital primary care to people who cannot afford it. And it is an incredible resource in our community, and it would not have been possible without your leadership, without the leadership of Mayor Jones and the work of this body to make sure that those appropriations happen. In my 16 years as an alderperson, I've had the pleasure of working with a number of health directors, and you by far have brought your full authentic self with you in that endeavor, and it is going to be missed. For my part, I'm going to listen and respect your legacy and be there to help advance those very issues that you were just talking about. I hope the rest of our body does the same. But thank you. Just those remarks solidify your entire purpose. Like, you are not just about yourself, you're about our community, you're about your people. And the health department is so much better because of you, and I hope that whoever comes behind you can meet where you were and hopefully carry your legacy forward as well. So I am here for you, like Alderwoman Saunier said, forever. If you ever need anything, just call me. I'm here, and I wish you all the best. I don't think that we need to hope, wish, or dream about it. I know it's going to happen for you. It's going to manifest for you. But you've got my support, and I am so happy to have known you and worked with you. And I look forward to seeing what you do, because I know it's going to be great.
Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you. What can I say that my colleague just didn't say? But I think you exemplified this idea that a city is only as strong as its people. And when you put the work in, when you put that work in with passion, the difference it can make. And so I'll keep it very brief, but I just want to say that you've inspired so many. You've inspired me. I know that we can continue to honor your legacy by not just supporting health, but also by that legacy of service, that idea that it is not about us, it is about the people we serve, and we do that work every single day. And I know amazing. I will be watching, and just as my colleague said, if I can help in any way, please do not hesitate to call on me.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Dr. Mahdi, I just want to thank you for your service. You were captaining the ship through a pretty tumultuous time. I mean, I can't think of anything more challenging than a global pandemic for a health department. And I think it's just a testament to your character that here, on your way out, rather than smiling and waving and clapping, you're standing on business and saying, support my people, support my workers, put more money into the budget for the health department, because that's what we're going to need to do if we want to take care of the people of this city. And I just respect the heck out of you on a day where you could just be resting on your laurels. Instead, you're standing on business and making sure that you're holding us accountable. And I hope that my colleagues take note of that and make sure that when we are going through that budgeting process here, that we look to support both our workers and what I believe to be a fairly underfunded health department. And thank you so much for your service.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Doc, before I begin, I would like to make a motion that we embank resolution number 14.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by, I think, the Alderman from the 2nd, that we embank resolution number 14. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is now embanked. Alderman from the 14th, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I love you, Doc. You know I love you so much. And I'm going to try to not say too much. We talked last night and you said I made you cry, so I won't try to do that today. You mentioned that it's been an honor for you to work in this position. I'm going to be real. It's been an honor for the residents and everybody in the city of St. Louis to have somebody like you in this role. The alderman from the 4th said it, but I'm going to say it a little different. You've been standing on business, and your authentic self. You know, every time you've showed up to the health, to the budget committee or to our public safety committee, you know, when I look at the CJC, you have been the reason why there is a new course at the CJC. You have been intentional, you have been honest, you have been bold, you've been accountable, and you've called out the previous administration, you've called out your department, you've called out and said when we've done wrong and how we gonna do right. And you don't see that in leaders. A lot of time folks just want to cover things up. And I just am so glad that God has given me the opportunity to meet such an amazing, trailblazing Black woman like you, and not just meet you and get to work with you in these positions, but actually call you somebody that I can call family. Somebody that I could pick up the phone call at any time of the day or shoot a text and know you're going to answer. And it is a huge loss to lose somebody like you because you have been about your people. When you say your people, the people in the health department, but also the people in the city of St. Louis that have been overlooked so long when we talk about healthcare. When we talk about public safety and we talk about all these things, we forget that healthcare is public safety. And in this city of St. Louis, we only fund our health department 1%. Oh, 2, still ain't enough. And I think you gave a call to action to this board. Because I've seen a lot of times people have, praised you as we doing now because we do appreciate you. But if we really do appreciate you, like you said, there's an opportunity, at least this board of aldermen has, through the budget process, to make sure that we do better when it comes to the health department. Make sure that we actually do our part and try to advocate as much as possible. And we know there's another process outside of the board, but to make sure that we put dollars behind the health department, because we cannot act like that there's another outbreak happening right now, and that this is a time, this is a moment that we need to step up and do our part. I love you. You know I got your back come Wednesday. And I just want to say thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your courage, because you have been courageous these last few years and smiling when you haven't got the resources you need, but continue to have done the work. I love you so much, and you know I got your back 10%. Love you, Doc.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. It is such an honor to have experienced Dr. Mahdi and all of the great work of her heart. And I'm so just so very, very thankful. Additionally, when leadership prepares to leave a position, those great leaders do what Dr. Mahdi has done. She has left a path forward. She's left a great body of work, a tune to dance to of sorts. And so I am eternally grateful. Love you, Dr. Mahdi. Looking forward to all of the great things that I know you will do next. And so we look forward to the next incantation, reinvention of Dr. Mahdi. God bless you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 2nd. Mic is not on.
Hello? There it is. Dr. Mahdi, I want to thank you for your public service. I want to double click on the factual landscape that is an MD, and this particular MD has an incredible market value in society and could have been on a different trajectory in private practice. I always think it's incredibly commendable that you served. It shows me that your heart is pure and that the Hippocratic Oath is strong within you. So thank you for that. Thank you for serving the city of St. Louis. Good luck to you.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would be remiss, and I feel like this is actually kind of something that Dr. Mahdi would do. But for those of you that might not be able to see, we do have a group of young people up in the balcony this morning. And you all look like you might be at the age where people are asking you what you want to be when you grow up. Do you get that question a lot? You want to be Dr. Mahdi when you grow up. So when you talk about, the things that make a difference in people's lives and want to grow up to make a difference in the world or in people's lives, talk about being a nurse, talk about being a doctor, talk about public health. There are a lot of options for you. You guys have very bright futures ahead of you as well. But what we're doing here on the floor this morning is recognizing someone who has done really great things for this city. And there's a couple other people that we're going to be honoring as well. So I know that you might be hearing a lot of words down here today, but I want to share with you words are really important. And this individual that we're honoring this morning is also really important. And as people start to ask you what you want to be when you grow up, think about getting into government, getting into public service, getting into public health. Those are opportunities and careers that you can think about as you make those decisions for yourself as you get older. And so this is a really great example of someone who has made some exceptional change in our city, and you can do that too.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mahdi, there's not a whole lot I can say that my colleagues haven't already said. I just want to thank you for your service, and really that the city was blessed to have you lead us. And I'm going to take it as a personal point to honor your words and your legacy through action. So I'm not going to say more than that, but I'm here if you ever need me. And I think we probably need you more. So I'm going to be happy to see what you're going to be doing. But I know, whatever you're going to make it better. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Members of the board, Dr. Mahdi, I'm so honored to have met you from the very beginning. I called you because I had things on my agenda that I needed to get done in the middle of a pandemic. We needed education. I heard you talk about that your mother was a single mother and that everything in your story should not be the success you have. I would disagree and say that it's why you are successful. Your homeland is my homeland. From our homeland comes diamonds, which are made from coals. And coal become diamonds because of the pressure, because you don't give up. So your mother taught you that you don't give up. It's the same thing my mother taught me all many, many thousands of miles away, the same things, that you do not give up. That as a Black woman, that you can be whatever you want to be, and nobody gets to define you. Not racism, not sexism, not ageism. Nobody defines you. You define you. And you also define your morals, your values, what you will not take, who can be racist and sexist in your face and smile and act like it's all right. It's not. You get back up. Sometimes the people who you thought were going to be the people who were going to be supportive are not. You get back up. You get rights taken away from you. You change the rules. You get back up. That's what you've had to do, and travel to another country to do it on top of everything else. But it's the same agenda. I'm always amazed when I talk to people who've grown up in different countries or even just different states or different areas of how much of the motherland has traveled with us. My husband and I, he comes from St. Louis, I come from Central Illinois. But when we talk about how we were raised, it's so amazing how much we were still raised the same way with very different sets of parents, okay? And that, I think, comes from our homeland, and not to forget that. I thought by now that I would be traveling in the motherland. We planned on having 6 months that we just traveled. That didn't get to happen right now. I'm going to stay here as long as people think that they can rule me and pressure me to do what they want to. I want to be right here to show them this is what diamonds look like. Okay, so, and to be able to tell the truth to power, that's what you have to do. And especially as a Black woman, you don't go along with people who try to feel like that they can demean you or put you down. That's what you've done. I appreciate that. I think that is why you're like that, because your mother taught you. Because sometimes when things are very, very easy for you and you have privilege and you think you can do that, then you don't have to shine. But when you have no other choice but to get back up and stand and do what you have to do, that's what makes people like you. Now, on top of that, you also care. You cared, you were professional, but that heart of caring is what makes a big difference a lot of times. You talked about the budget. I want to say the Board of Aldermen doesn't set that budget. I'm going to take up for us a little bit. That comes from another place. Right. We can say, hey, we think you should add more, but we can subtract, but we do not set that budget. So I will not take that responsibility. I will put that in the executive branch that did not fund you the way they should. So you got to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And if you talk about healthcare is important, then you have to fund it. It's like how we do with teachers. We talk about how important education is, and then we don't want to pay teachers, okay? So all of that is, I think most of us here would support if there was an addendum and people came over and said we want to have more health care. I don't think anybody here wants to see the department go down, but we have to deal with the realism of what our politics are now, okay? And who's in Pennsylvania Avenue, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I have to think about how I say that and what their agenda has been. And we got a state Senate and a U.S. Senate and a U.S. Congress is following right along. So there are going to be cuts. Hopefully, I think I see some people now understanding why dictatorships don't work, why you always need an opposition, because you need checks and balance. And when you try to squash the opposition, that's what makes leaders. And you have been a leader in healthcare, and I am not going to look forward to what you do next, because I agree with the sponsor of this resolution that sometimes what you do next is take care of you. Spend some time with your beautiful family. Decide what you want to do. You got plenty of time, but maybe get to go home. If your mother didn't see this, get to go home and spend time. I get to do that. My mother lives 2 hours away. She's going to be 90 in July. Every 7 or 8 days, I'm there taking care of her and looking out for her. So I pray that you get to go home, and that, again, I want to thank you for all your hard work. It makes a difference when people not only have education, experience, but they also have the caring to get it done. And I appreciate you giving the current administration notice so that they could get prepared to transition. And that is a sign of professionalism, not just leaving and saying, I'm out of here. It's a sign, it's when you let people know. Thank you very much for your service.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Dr. Mahdi? No. You and I have already shared our tears, so I'm going to try to keep it together here. I just want to say, when Mayor Jones told me that you were coming on as our health director, I honestly couldn't believe it. You were by far the most qualified health director that we have ever had. And in addition to being qualified, you are a visionary. And I think oftentimes in this city, we don't think about what is possible. We keep ourselves in kind of these boxes of saying that we can't do certain things. And you have always pushed us to say, no, we can do more. We can have an accredited health department. We can send vans out into communities to bring health care to the people. Building off of what Alderman from the 14th said, yes, public health is public safety. It's also public infrastructure. We have to be looking beyond bricks and mortar and understand that if our people are sick, if they're not healthy, we don't have a good foundation for infrastructure in our city. I am so sad to be leaving, for you to be leaving at this time in particular. We know that public health is under attack. We know that all of the things that you have built and work for is under attack. But I also know that we have a board here that understands that. And we have a board that I think knows that you have provided us with the direction that we need to take going forward. And so I look forward to reviewing and implementing your plan to make sure that there are zero cuts and that we can make sure that we keep everybody in place. And I also want to make sure that we are forwarding your vision going forward. I mean, we've had so many conversations about, bringing back public hospitals and, and daring to dream about what is actually possible in the realm of public health in the city. And so my ask of you is that you continue to push us to keep dreaming and to keep pushing to see what is possible instead of telling ourselves that we can't do certain things, because we can. And you have showed us what is possible. So you may be leaving employment here, but you are not leaving. And I know many of us will still be calling you pretty frequently to get your input and advisement and your truth, because sometimes you just need a drop of truth and you're always there to give it. So we love you. Thank you for your service to the city. And I cannot wait to see what you do next. I think as long as everyone can stay around, we'll do pictures at the end with all of our 3 honorees, if that works. With that, I will ask Aldermen from the 14th to approach the dais with Neil Richardson. Please come on up.
Did anybody get added to his?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam Clerk, would you please read resolution number 15?
Resolution number 15, recognizing the transformative leadership and vision of Neil Richardson during his tenure at St. Louis Development Corporation, known as SLDC. Whereas Neil Richardson, a proud St. Louis native, led the St. Louis Development Corporation with passion and unwavering commitment to equitable economic opportunity, ensuring that underrepresented communities across the city had a voice and access to economic empowerment. And whereas under Neil's leadership, beginning in June 2021, SLDC underwent a remarkable transformation, doubling its budget, growing its staff, and creating a reimagined purpose and brand that reflected its mission to empower, develop, and transform St. Louis into a just and thriving city for all. And whereas through the strategic use of $127 million in ARPA funds, Neil launched 15 new programs and opened the Northside Economic Empowerment Center, directly impacting over 3,900 residents and 2,000 businesses in historically disinvested neighborhoods. And whereas his commitment to economic justice led to over $26 million in grants distributed to small businesses and nonprofits in North St. Louis, while additional investments helped launch a $25 million capital fund and established the Economic Justice Accelerator, which secured significant funds and public, private, and philanthropic commitments. And whereas beyond the role at SLDC, Neil's legacy includes founding Dream Builders for Equity and nonprofit that has empowered youth through financial literacy and real estate development, offering over $450,000 in direct benefit to students and investing more than $760,000 in distressed communities. And whereas Neil's leadership, integrity, and vision have left an enduring mark on St. Louis through the transformative progress made at SLDC, and his work continues to inspire a future of inclusive growth and opportunity for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize the leader, Neil Richardson, was and the enduring impact of his work at SLDC. We further direct the clerk of this Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and to prepare a commemorative copy of this resolution to the end that it may be presented to those deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 9th day of May, 2025 by the Honorable Rasheen Aldrich, Alderman of the 14th Ward. Co-sponsors the Honorable, Megan Green, President of the Board of Aldermen, Shane Cohn, Alderman of the 3rd, Michael Browning, Alderman of the 9th Ward, Alicia Sanier, Alderman of the 7th Ward, Laura Keys, Alderwoman of the 11th Ward, Daniela Velasquez, Alderwoman of the 6th Ward, Honorable Shameen Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman of the 10th Ward, and Alderwoman Tyus of the 12th Ward.
Outside of all the amazing accomplishments Mr. Richardson have, he also have a beautiful family. If we can just give them a round of applause as well. Man, where do I start? I think today's theme of a lot of people that we are honoring today is a few words: unflinching, intentional, and commitment. It has been an honor not just to be able to work with Mr. Richardson, but as the last or currently only black man at the board, to just see the work that Mr. Richardson has done and the way that he has led and been unapologetic just gives me hope. It gives me energy, and it gives me aspirations to want to do more for my community. Mr. Richardson has really changed, I think, the trajectory of what SLDC has been. He has changed the way that we look at development. He's changed the way that we invest in certain communities that have not been invested in a long time. If it's creating the economic scorecard, or working with myself in the 14th Ward to finally make sure that we hold developers, and I'm going to say it like Paul McKee, accountable, that have been a burden and that have been hurting Northside for a very long time. He has used his not just leadership, but his team. And he talks so highly about his team, which it just shows the leader that he is, which I love. Somebody who doesn't just talk about themselves, but talk about the people that are also doing the work with them. And his team has been so instrumental to making sure that millions, not hundreds, but millions of dollars have reached areas that have not seen development in a very long time. I'm just in awe. Again, that God has put me in a place and at a time to not only serve at this Board of Aldermen, but to be able to work with great people like Mr. Richardson to try to transform the way that our communities look like. You know, you have set also, just like in the health department, a framework up at SLDC for the next to come. And you set some very big loafers for the next person to have to fill. And that framework is going to be important, that we as a board and everybody continue to make sure that that framework continues to be played out, because it's been a framework, in my opinion, that is a way that we invest in not an equal way, but in an equitable way in areas that have been left out so long. So I know there's some other folks that want to talk, but Neil, I love you, big bro. You family. Everyone else that is coming up is family, so I respect the title, but at the end of the day, you always going to be my brother, and whatever I could do moving forward to support you, you know I'm only a phone call away, and just thank you for leading with grace. Thank you with leading with being your authentic self, and thank you with giving hope to so many other individuals that look like me that can see themselves being the CEO and president of an organization that have put millions of dollars into the city to transform it. So thank you so much, and I love you.
Hey, board. Good morning. I am extremely honored to be here today as a St. Louis native. I always tell this joke, and I'm going to end it with this joke too. I grew up, born and raised in Lewis Place. I went to church in the Ville, Antioch Baptist Church, and my grandmother lived in Penrose neighborhood. So when it comes to North City, no one knows it better than me. I lived it and breathed it my entire life. But it also, I'm a product of not just North City, but this entire community. I spent the last 15 years of my life at U.S. Bank and at SLDC working downtown and seeing the economic opportunity that can create for our entire city to thrive. I also get my haircut in South City on Chippewa. So it's for me, I am made and bred by this entire city. I spent a lot of time in South City, specifically with Alderman Cone, walking through some of the most challenging projects that you'll ever imagine and trying to think through strategies of how to rebuild it. I also spent time in Forest Park. I spent time in North St. Louis City, a lot of time in North St. Louis City to bridge that gap. And I say that to say, even though I'm a product and grew up in North St. Louis City, it requires all of us coming together to make the change that we need for our entire city to grow. But we cannot let the areas that have been historically underserved be left behind. I have children, and we have healthy children, and you may have a child that's struggling. Are you going to not put more resources and greater support for that child that is struggling? Because that child that's struggling has an impact on the entire family. So we want our entire family to be healthy. We need our entire city to be healthy. Just because I had an intentional focus on North St. Louis City did not mean that I didn't care about all of our city. But it required for me to elevate and ring the alarm on the challenges that's coming in North St. Louis City. And if we don't take intentional investment there, our entire city will continue to crumble. I spent a lot of time with the North City Alders. We fought it out many times. We had many cries and many laughs, but we also worked together to create some change, to plant some seeds, because it took us over 70 years to get to this point, and we cannot make a change overnight. But if we decide to change course now, our city will never be able to reach its full potential. So as Dr. Mahdi had 2 requests, I too have 2 requests. The work that we did with the Economic Justice Action Plan was a playbook to uplift this entire city, to empower, develop, and transform this community. Yes, we was intentional about North St. Louis City. Yes, we were intentional about Southeast City. But that's because that's where our greatest challenges lie, but also our greatest opportunities. In the ward in which Alderman Cone represents, he has the youngest population of school-age children in almost our entire state. And that requires for us to invest in those kids, invest in their future. We cannot allow them to not have the resources to succeed. We cannot allow for them to walk down the street and continue to see vacant and dilapidated buildings, because that is a reflection of how they see themselves. In North St. Louis City, we have to ensure that we address the blight, that we create investment that drives change for those small businesses that will be able to create economic opportunity and attract the largest corporations from across the globe. North St. Louis City is built on that history, and it can once again reclaim that prosperity. So my challenge to this committee and the board today is to not let the Economic Justice Action Plan be another plan that just sits on a shelf. I have put a team in place that is ready to empower, develop, and transform this community. And when I talk to that team, it was sad that, I'm leaving. But what was most evident to me was that they told me how much they bought into that vision, into that mission to see economic justice be achieved. And they worked hard every day. And that's why I stood before the press, before the board, before any public official and fight for my team. I was not fighting for myself. I was fighting for my team. And I would take a hit for them any day. Many people said, you could throw this person under the bus, throw that person. That's not what leadership looks like. I'm going to stand in front of that. I'm going to take that hit. And if it costs me my position, so be it. Because I will not create and have a voice and a vision that I'm telling my team to go out and execute every day and not be willing to stand behind them, even if they fail, even if they have challenges. Because when you're standing up 15 programs in the matter of 2 years, things that have never been done before, bringing in private investment, philanthropic investment to sustain this work, there will be challenges. But if I'm willing to ask my team to put on their armor every day and step out into this community, I'm going to be right there with them. And when it comes to taking a hit, I'll take that hit. And that's what leadership looks like. So again, I'm asking this group today to protect the Economic Justice Action Plan, the equitable economic development scorecard that we created. Is not about pitting the developers against the public sector. It's about bringing us together and finding some consistency around what are we prioritizing as a community. And what the community benefit scorecard was challenge our community to identify what are those priorities. And then put them out and say, this is what we want to see from development, and for developers to give feedback and for us to find unity on how we move forward. So as I close, I just have one more message, and that's from my young Black boys out there in the city of St. Louis. Again, as we have this connotation of this negative connotation of being a product of your environment means that you are a negative influence on the community. I am also a product of my environment of the city of St. Louis. And I was the president, CEO, and chairman of the SLDC Board of Directors. It was never lost on me that my position was just not about the work that I did, but also being a model for those young Black boys. And I had to hold my tongue in many cases, be respectful, be mannerable, just so they can see what it looks like to be a bigger person. But also, at some point, you have to stand for something and not allow people to break your core values and your morals on who you are. And that's the example I wanted to leave for our young Black boys in the city of St. Louis. And while I love all my people, all our residents, all our businesses, all our developers in this city, I care, because we all have to come together to make our city what it can possibly be. Those young Black boys need support. They need love. They need to know that people care about them too. So in closing, I love you, young Black boys, young Black kings. You will be great. Thank you all for your time today.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the...
Thank you, Madam President. First, I guess I would like to make a motion that we make this resolution en banc.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make resolution number 15 in bank. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Neil, I gotta say, during my tenure down here, I think you know, and many of my colleagues know, the challenges that I've faced in my ward for many, many years. It was so awesome to be able to have someone who was finally there listening, and not only listening, but showing up. Before you even started, I don't know if you remember this, but I called you up before you even got on payroll. And I was like, I need to have the opportunity to take you around my neighborhood. And you showed up, and we went around Dutchtown, Mount Pleasant, and specifically Cleveland High School. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was validated in my concerns and heard about the urgency to get something done. And I know that the bureaucracy that churns down here takes time. And those are a lot of the hurdles that you were confronted with in your tenure at SLDC. But the things that you were able to put in place, the things that you're able to do, I think, to my colleague from the 14th Ward's point, creates a framework for moving things forward. Cleveland High School, a lot of people don't know the behind the scenes that's been going on in terms of working with SLPS, getting agreements in place, working through LCRA, like just trying to find resources and creating that framework. And that framework now exists, and we'll be better off because of that. I hope that whoever fills your shoes, loafers, will bring that same passion that you have brought, not only for your people and for the city, and equity, but to bring change to our streets, to our neighborhood corridors, and that framework, that equitable development framework and frame of mind to the work that they do. I can already tell you, President Green and I have already been in conversations about updating the development scorecard to include the EJI in there, to ensure that we continue to make that plan at the forefront of discussions as we continue to move forward. So you've got an ally with me in terms of making sure that we continue, that doesn't get done, that we continue to use that as a framework for how we view things moving forward. And I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you've done. I look forward, just like Dr. Mahdi, to all of the great things that you're going to do in life. And, if you ever need anything, call upon me. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Neil, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say thank you enough. I really love the way that you showed up for our city. And I really appreciate those evenings, after 8:30 at night, if I called you, you called me back. And we were able to talk through those issues that we were trying to navigate through for the benefit of North City and the elevated 11th Ward. We are better because you were here. And I want to just say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Mr. Richardson, you know that I love you. I had the chance to meet you before I was on this board, actually when I was on the Board of Education. And at that time, some of the projects you've done now have manifested, such as the school that's going to be turned into a place for families that are in transition, the Northside Economic Empowerment Center. But there is a story that I've actually never talked about publicly. I think there might be a few constituents who might be aware. But I think it's really relevant to this time. And so a little bit after I became Alderwoman, there was a project that was going to, a possibility to happen in 7th Ward, and we met with residents, we talked to constituents, and there was a nice amount of pushback because the project was seeking an incentive, and what stuck out to residents is that 2 bedrooms were $1,800 and, you know, just different questions about affordable housing. And so I was talking to constituents and really trying to figure out, like, how can I support this project? But, like, what does equitable development really look like? How is this not just a hashtag? And honestly thought about, as someone who represents a community that's diverse in class, in race, in all these things, but that serves constituents who are mindful that incentives and abatements and these development tools, they have to be used properly, because if you overuse them in areas where they're not needed, they never make it to the areas that desperately need it. And as the alderperson who's supposed to push this legislation forward, you kind of have a unique role. And it was very short after I became alderwoman. My community was very clear with their questions and pushbacks. And I remember calling you and being unsure of what to do. And I don't know if you remember, but you asked me, you know, what do you think the right thing to do here in this situation is? And I was like, you know, I think that we should ask for a little bit more. And at the time, we discussed asking for, I think for it to be 10% of affordable units, which would have been 6 units in the project. And then the developer was like, well, you know, before I do that, I'll just go to the bank. And that was great because it's called the if-but-for test. And it's like, oh, so then you don't need it because you could just go to the bank and you could just pay your tax and it can be normal. But it was a really big deal, and I never talked about it publicly because I agree with you that as leaders, I don't really want the mess and the foolishness to be in the spotlight. When I take stands, I want it to be about issues. I want it to be about the people, and I want to stay out of the drama as much as possible. But that was a time where I saw, like, you as the head of SLDC, as the president and CEO, come with me and meet with community members, sit with me and that developer and have conversations, help us mention middle ground, and even get it to a point where it's like, yeah, the city is not just a bank. And if we were a bank, even the bank has terms of doing business. We're not just this isn't a corporate welfare getaway. And so I think that's really relevant because, you know, one of the things that I really want to do is apologize to you. I do think that you've been subject to a certain type of political lynching that Black leaders are often subject to. And I do think some of it has been unfair and not a holistic conversation, and very politically motivated. And so I apologize for you for going that, but I commend you for standing in honor, for standing in integrity, for keeping it about the people and keeping it about the city and not going into the fray. That's such an important motto that I hope to carry with me. And you have my word as we move forward that I will try to be as mindful as I can about equitable development. I will try to speak truth to power. I totally agree that we have to get away from this narrative that it's developers versus the rest of the people, that it's this portion of the city versus that portion of the city. You know, I truly believe that all of us win or all of us lose. And I also think that government has a job that is to deal with all the stakeholders and to be a regulators, but we are not to just give away things like candy. And so I'm very grateful for your leadership. I'm very grateful for what you've done. You have my public commitment on the record that equitable development is not just a hashtag. And as long as I have a seat at this board, it won't just be something that we say when it's easy, but it will be a course of conversation. It will be a discussion when we discuss incentives. And I will also do my best just as a Black leader to follow your motto of staying focused on the people, even when the attacks and the hits come, really being mindful of, is this fight about me or is it about what I'm trying to do, and centering what I'm trying to do over my individual self. So I thank you so much for your work. You know, I was a proud no vote on this situation and I would do it again. And I've said that and I would say it again. And I just thank you for even giving me that opportunity again as a leader to, you know, say what I have to say and take a stance, even if I have to do that alone. And it's because of leaders like yourself, leaders like Dr. Mahdi. I have had such amazing models of Black leaders who will speak truth to power and do what is right, even when it is not popular. And you have my commitment that I will continue to do that. And thank you for everything you have done and will do for us.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 2nd.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Neil, congratulations on your next chapter. Thank you for your service. I've had the pleasure to have worked with Neil for the better part of a decade in the private sector, and I can tell you his passion, his principle, and his technical expertise did not change when he decided to serve his community and serve his city. It's commendable. I appreciate your professionalism the whole time I've known you, and I'm glad to be professional colleagues with you in community development and economic development finance Good luck, and thanks again for your public service, Neil.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Madam President. Neil, I just wanted to, I know we talked last week, but I just wanted to say a lot of what my colleagues have said and thank you for your service, your professionalism, and also your commitment to the community. I know this, actually don't know what it's like to have been you. I know it hasn't always been the easiest journey, but you've stood up for what's right. I, like many of my colleagues, every time I've called you, you've hopped on the phone, called me back. I've had a great experience working with the team that you've built at SLDC. I think the scorecards are a great thing, and Alderman from the 3rd, I am of adding the EJI component on the scorecards. But just want to say thank you for all that you've done for our city, and I know you're gonna land well and maybe have a little less stress in your next role.
Alderwoman from the 12th.
Thank you, members of the board. Mr. Richardson, I am fortunate that I got to not only know you, but your parents and where you come from. Come from great stock, people that I like, people that I meet in the grocery store, and they say, hey, aren't you? And then we had long conversations about you and what a nice young man you are and professional young man you are. I will go into the weeds a little bit and say that you took some hits that were not yours. And you took them because this Board of Aldermen I know more than anybody because this Board of Aldermen changed the original intent of the ARPA funds, and that put you in a transition that was not fair. You never came out and talked about it, but it was something that if you go back and look, when we changed it, I talked about it. You cannot change horses in the middle of the stream and then not think that there are consequences. We passed the original ARPA in 2021. Then we sat on it, and then we changed it in 2022 or 23. But you were already working on a plan from what we originally had. And then that got changed, and people said, well, how come they didn't have that done? Nobody looked at because the Board of Aldermen and the mayor changed it. That's what happened. You took the hit. You didn't stand up for yourself, but I will stand up for you, okay? And I called you and told you that and other things, you know. So the thing about reading every little bit, that you actually know what's going on. I actually read the 425-page document, have it on my iPad, about ARPA that comes with it, and what's a conflict of interest and what's an appearance of impropriety. And so what got lost in the transition was this $37 million North Corridor money, which everybody's, oh, that's a lot of money. And I even heard the former mayor talk about that's transition. I mean, that's transformative. $37 million is not transformative. Just to put it in context, during my tenure as the 20th Ward Alderwoman, if you since you grew, your parents lived in, your grandparents lived in Penrose, and your parents live right around the corners from different areas in North St. Louis. I did over $50 million in development in one ward. That was 4 neighborhoods in North St. Louis. We built a grocery store, a Snooks. We built a hardware, and we're not a hardware store. That's still my dream. We built a Walgreens. You know how many times you've heard about that. We built a Walgreens. We built a school. We built a bank. We built a credit union. We built new churches. So that was in one ward. $37 million across North St. Louis quarters is no money. And the people who started to say that to me, I would say, so you're talking about the $37 million across all of North St. Louis quarters, but you don't talk about where is the other $463 million. Why are we talking about that? There's a reason about that, because it got pulled out of context. And it was our fault, and it was the mayor's fault. It was not Neil Richardson's fault. He did not change the law. We did, and we ought to have been taking those hits, not him. That was not fair, and so even though I voted against it, I take the responsibility. It was not you. I have never, ever talked to you. You were ever anything but respectful, caring. I'm passionate about development in North St. Louis. You know it, because I know how to do it. I was doing it when you were a little boy. Okay, when people told me there couldn't be a grocery store at Natural Bridge and Natural Bridge and Union, it's still there 25 years later, and I didn't give them TIF. I'm passionate about the things that we can do to keep all parts. Everybody always talks about low income in North St. Louis, but there's a working and middle and upper income that does not get supported, which is why they leave. They left. In the last 4 years, 20-some thousand people left from the city of St. Louis. And it was a lot of middle-income black people because they don't feel supported. They want to stay here. They want to stay in North St. Louis. North St. Louis is a great place to live. It's not an end result because you can't live anyplace else. My husband and I live there because we want to. And that means we take a lot of hits from racism at this Board of Aldermen in this city hall, because they want to describe and prescribe what is black, because they so woke, they think black is poor and begging, and it is not. Black is being able to earn your own living and have a respect for your community and not run from your community and plant your feet and say, bring it, because I'm going to bring it back to you. And that means all different kinds of economic development. I've been very disappointed about my hardware store. I've told you that. I'm disappointed about some other things. But I was never disappointed about you and your respect and your commitment for the community. And I also know that you worked for somebody, okay? So I didn't take my disappointment out on you. I talked to you about it. I took it out on the person who didn't keep their word with me, okay? So I always will say the name Vince Shamo. A lot of black people are scared of that name. I'm not, because when I was new, Vince Shamo had the fortune to call me up and say, Sharon, what do you need? I said, I need a grocery store. He spent $4 million to buy that lot where that grocery store is still there. I will always have respect for that, because that was the pinnacle of what we built for Natural Bridge, Kings Highway, and Union, and what we still continue to work for. I believe that you care about the community. I want to congratulate you. I hear you have a beautiful new family. Congratulations on that. I also want to thank your parents, your father, your mother, your stepfather for raising such a nice young man. But you shouldn't have had taken all of the hits. People should have stepped up. I appreciate that you didn't throw them under the bus, but they should have said, the buck stops here. I made the decisions, and when we made the decisions, then we're responsible for them. So I want people to know, the Post-Dispatch, who wrote all those articles, Austin, that wasn't Neil, that was the Board of Aldermen, and that was the mayor. That was not Neil Richardson, and we ought to take our own responsibility, and I'm sorry that you got caught up in that, because I do think that you have to have somebody who has passion and loves what they do and care about what they do and want things to happen. It's why I live in North St. Louis. People always tell me, why you and your husband live there? Y'all can live where you want to. We actually can. We can live on Lindo. I live right where I want to live. I want black kids to see that black people are married, have a commitment to each other, don't have to beg on the corner, went to school, got an education. You can be a lawyer, you can have a master in urban affairs, you can be a planner, you can be all kind of things and still be out there every day picking up that trash on Kings Highway or Maffitt or in the alley, because community is about respecting all different types of people in the community and not letting other people decide what your community looks like. I think that's the most racist, ignorant thing, that people think that they can decide what our community looks like, and they do it, and they're well-meaning and think that they're doing something that they've never understood. You can be my ally. You can't be my leader about what things happen in North St. Louis. You don't live there. For 33 years, I have planted my feet, and I have cared about the community, and I've never seen anybody that cares as much as you do about it, and I appreciate that. And again, I want to thank your parents for that. I didn't get to work with you much in the way I would like to, but I did get to talk to you on occasions, and every time I talked to you, you got it about what had to be done, but it is real hard to get things through a lot of times because people talk the talk and they jump you up and down, but then when you look at what they actually do, it's not the same as the verbiage. And that's what you have to have. And again, I will say, it was not Neil Richardson's fault about that measly $37 million, because in the gist of things, $37 million is no money to put on quarters, which was originally supposed to be to help small and businesses on certain quarters. And we had a meeting on July the 9th, my mother's birthday. I'm sitting in Decatur. We have a 10-hour Zoom meeting trying to divide that money. And we then passed it and finally read it in August, I think, of 2021. And then to have it changed and pull the rug out from under you, when you're creating a program for one thing and then it gets changed to something else, you have to start all over. You have to try to make it work. You also didn't have a choice about those lists that were released. I don't think you are that unprofessional, and I know you're not, that you would have released something. I'm going to just take up for you. You didn't, but I will, okay? You would not release something that was not prepared. That was done because people were under political pressure. When you're under political pressure, sometimes you make bad choices. I would have, if I had talked to you, I would have said, write a memo saying, I don't think this is a good idea, but if you're making me do it, I'm going to do it, okay? But it's not a good idea. You hadn't been able to vet it. I don't believe you ever intended to give anybody who wasn't deserving of the money. I think you were trying to make a list, and you didn't have the time to do it the way it was supposed to be done because we changed it. And I do, again, appreciate sometimes you're not doing it. But I just want to say, for all those who've read part of the story, there's a whole other story that you don't know. And sometimes when you're quiet and silent and don't tell people about the rest of it, that doesn't mean it's another story. And each one of us that was here and voted to change the way we were going to do ARPA, then we're part of the problem. I wasn't one of those people. I stood on this floor and said, this is a mistake. But I'll still, as part of the group, it's also part of my problem, but it's not to smear your name or to defame you, because I kept calling you and saying, Neil, you're a young man. You could be my son. I want you to be able to have another position. I don't want you to take all these hits that are not yours. So anybody wants to talk about what the real facts are, I'll sit down with the press and point out to them, this, and this is not true. Neil Richardson is not that kind of person. I don't know him to be dishonorable. I know him to be honorable and a person who cares about the community. And I don't even have to say good luck with you and your new family, because you already lived the life that God will look out for you, and you will have great things to happen in your life. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Neil, we've also shared some tears already. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you over the last 4 years. I remember when you first came in as director of SLDC, we were still in the midst of a pandemic and was so excited that we finally had somebody at the helm who was willing to look at development differently in a more community-oriented way. And so I asked if you would be willing to meet with some folks in the community who had been pushing for change and development for a while. And if you remember, we met outside in my backyard, and you got acquainted with my chickens, which was, I think, an eye-opening experience. We'll leave it at that. But I appreciated from day one your willingness to realize that if we continue down the path that we were on with development, by not looking at where the biggest needs were, by continuing to over-subsidize development in our most wealthiest, stable areas of the city, by continuing to lock out community from these decisions, we were never going to grow as a city. And I know that there is a lot of people in the community right now that are mourning you leaving SLDC, because we fought for a decade to get the Economic Justice Scorecard, to get the Economic Justice Index, to make sure that it wasn't, development wasn't done in a way where, developer just calls SLDC, says, I want this, they're like, sure, and then the board rubber stamps it. That we processes, that we actually had evaluation, that we actually looked at equity. And I think a lot of us right now are afraid that that's going to go away. And so I appreciate your call to action. As Alderman from the 3rd already said, we've already been talking about how do we make sure that we codify the work of the economic justice framework? How do we make sure that this work is not lost just because you're not at the helm anymore? And just like Dr. Mahdi said, we are going to take your calls to action. We are going to put them in place here, and I will continue to call on you throughout that process because we cannot afford to go backwards. And you have been such a visionary, bright, shining light in how development can be done in our city. So you leaving is a huge loss for our community. The way that you have been treated publicly, I've told you this over and over again, I think has been atrocious. And you have handled it with grace and centering the work and the people that we need to impact every single day. And that is a model that I think all of us can ascribe to. But you're going to be a great success no matter what you do next. But your impact that you have had on this city is phenomenal, and we are going to make sure that it continues well into the future. So thank you. If Aldermen for the third would please approach the dais for resolution number 16. Come on up, Freddie.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam Clerk, would you please read resolution 16?
Resolution number 16, honoring Frederica McGlown. Frederica McGlown was the executive director of the St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment for 4 years. And whereas Frederica received her Bachelor's of Science in Communication and Media Studies from the University of Missouri St. Louis in 2012 and her Master's of Arts in Communication from University of Missouri St. Louis in 2015. And whereas Frederica has been a dedicated part-time agile instructor of Metropolitan Community College, focusing on job readiness, career exploration, and life skills since 2020. And whereas Frederica is the CEO and founder of Black Girl Millennial World LLC, which is an organization committed to educating, elevating, and empowering Black female millennials with a primary focus on academic, personal, and professional growth and enhancement. And whereas Frederica worked for Goodwill for 7 years as a life coach, co-manager of the Young Adult Division Program Specialist, and case manager. And whereas Frederica is passionate about creating, managing, executing, and supporting programs that positively impact the lives of youth. And whereas Frederica is the author of Hey Little Black Girl, It's Your World, a motivational book meant to encourage and empower young Black girls to stay focused and committed on their journeys to success. And Hey Little Black Girl, It's Your World coloring book edition. And whereas Frederica is the recipient of numerous awards and honors, including but not limited to 2016 and 2018 winner of the UMSO Notable Alumni Award recipient, 2018 St. Louis Business Journal 30 and Under 30 Award recipient, 2014 St. Louis chapter of the National Council of Negro Women Legacy Award, 2014 St. Louis Metropolitan Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Outstanding Service to the St. Louis Community 2014 UMSO Young Women on the Move in the City of St. Louis Award. Now therefore be resolved by this Honorable Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberations to celebrate, honor, and thank Frederica McLeod for her service to the City of St. Louis. We further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and to prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented to the honoree at time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 9th day of May 2025 by the Honorable Shane Cone, Alderman of the 3rd Ward, and Sharon Tyus of the 12th Ward. Adopted this 9th day of May 2025 as attested by Terry Kennedy, Clerk of the Board of Aldermen, and Megan Green, President of the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It is my honor to be able to present this resolution to Frederica. or as many of us know her, Freddie. She came into city government to lead SLATE, St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment, an agency that under her leadership has stepped up to serve our community in so many different ways, whether that's through youth employment programs or as alderman of the 3rd Ward, when I first got elected to the 3rd Ward versus the 25th Ward, shortly after my election, it was announced that the South City Hospital was going to be closing. And Freddie stepped up to the plate, and we were able to do job fairs for the impacted employees at the hospital, and were able to place many of them, over 70% of them got placed in new jobs elsewhere in St. Louis. So taking a really horrible situation and working for the people that are most drastically impacted by those decisions and helping them to maintain their own livelihood, to contribute to our city, and raise their voices up at the table. You have been everywhere in this city doing that work. And I am so incredibly proud of the work that you have done as SLATE director. Honestly, SLATE has been one of those departments that has been a question mark for many people for many years, and it is not now. And I am sure that you have some things that you would like for us to do with your legacy as well, and I, for one, am committed to making that happen. But I have to make known that this woman has done great things for this city. And you will be missed, but I know that your legacy will continue through your people, through the framework that you have shared with us as a city, and change is hard, and we don't always know what's going to be next in our paths. But there are some of us that when that change happens, we lean into it and we accept it, sometimes with hesitancy, but sometimes with a full heart. And just from the conversation that we were having earlier this morning, I know that you're leaning into that change and you're doing so with a full heart. And that brings me some comfort. But I want you to know that for my part, I'm here for you. I know many of my colleagues are as well. But this resolution, as it does with Dr. Mahdi and with Neil, takes a moment in time from this body to share the contributions that you've put forward in this city that we are so particularly proud of. And with that, I'll turn it over to Freddie.
What an honor and a privilege to stand before you today. To President Green and to all of you, with a very special thank you to Alderman Cone, Alderman Aldridge, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Sonia, and Pam Boyd. As I work closely with each of you to meet the workforce needs of our city and most importantly, our young people. Although this resolution has my name on it, I dedicate it to the 59 change agents down at 1520 Market Street, Suite 3050, who show up and show out daily, saving the lives of those who walk through SLATE's doors and those they meet in the community. Together, over the past 4 years, I have had the distinctive privilege of serving as the only African-American female local workforce development board director in the state of Missouri from 2021 to 2025. We took SLATE from a $5.5 million agency to $22 million in less than 18 months. We resurrected the Prison to Prosperity program to help individuals inside the Justice Center to connect to academic and employment opportunities once they are released. We provided over $10 million towards summer jobs to keep youth off the streets and into something positive and to help them bring home money to support their families. We have provided over $500,000 to Peter and Paul Shelter to create a workforce program to help the unhoused get services, jobs, and obtain self-sufficiency. We have provided over $900,000 to help non-custodial fathers catch up on child support payments after the devastation of COVID. We have helped provide funding for hundreds of students to receive their high school diploma / equivalency and an industry-recognized credential in a high-demand sector. We have met the needs of many of those who were laid off immediately from the abrupt closures and layoffs from the Armory, Boeing, Northview Village Nursing Home, the International Institute, and St. Alexius Hospital, and more in the region. Youth homicides are the lowest they've been in years because of the work between Slate and the Office of Violence Prevention. We have secured millions of dollars for St. Louis to bring programs and projects that would be impactful to our people. I was able to lead Slate in regaining its accreditation and board certification as it had been lost in previous years. And we created a strategic workforce plan to combat the threats of millions of dollars of potential federal cuts to ensure city workforce services go uninterrupted. And this wasn't even half of what we were able to do. But on April 14th, God said, assignment over. And I know that my grandparents are looking down and saying, job well done, baby girl. And on today, I couldn't think of a better way to round out my time in serving leadership for this great city than to be recognized by all of you. I would also be remiss if I did not mention the Honorable former Mayor Tashara O. Jones, who afforded me the opportunity to do this work and stand here before you today. So thank you to all of you for this special recognition, and I am honored to have served you and your community over these past 4 years. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Freddie, you know that I love you. I have been in just amazement of your leadership and the things that you've done. You just touched on a corner of it, just a corner of what you've done. There are so many things that you have done. There's so much that you've given of yourself, and I'm so grateful for all of it. You mentioned the Prison of Prosperity program. You mentioned the program that you started, even with the unhoused. I mean, you've done so much work, and I think sometimes of all the work, like that work doesn't get talked about and doesn't make the headlines at all enough. And so I appreciate you because I think my favorite quality about you is that you truly don't do it for the credit. You truly don't do it. Honestly, most of the time where I've mentioned you come and you say, well, can a team member of mine come? You know, you're always trying to give the spotlight to somebody else and give somebody else their moment, keep it focused on the people. So thank you so much for that. I don't want to cry today. I put on my good purple glitter shadow for y'all. So I'm going to stop it here. But I do just want to say, again, especially as a Black woman, that I see you and I value and I appreciate you, and that the work that you've done is going to live well beyond you, because that is what it is when you're a legendary and you're a vision. The vision does not end when you pass the mantle. You are simply passing the mantle. And with that, I actually would like to make a motion to embank.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 7th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we embank resolution number 16. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Freddie, another thank you and love you. You know, when you talk about, you know, I think I mentioned it earlier, of a leader, you are one of those people that always talk about your team. I know Carlos and so many others down at 1520, you know, are your biggest cheerleaders because you are their biggest cheerleader. You have empowered them. You have changed the way that office, I think a lot of times had thought like, oh, we really employing people. But you show up not only in the community, but you have made that office do innovative stuff. You know, I believe the holiday jingle bells and, you know, come get a job of weeks of making sure that big employers, right? You know, I come from working at McDonald's, and no matter where you work, as long as you're able to get a job, right, it is good. But you've took it to the next level to make sure that they are some good quality jobs. As we are fighting to make those other jobs quality jobs, you made sure that Boeing's and these other quality jobs that can provide a livable wage was at City Hall doorsteps to make sure that those individuals that were looking for opportunities to get a job, you did that. Your team did that. And I know the way that you led with a just compassion. You led with love. And enough time we don't have that. There's so much hatred. There's so much trying to beat everyone else down to make it about themselves. That ain't you. You lead with love. You lead with making it about everyone else. You know, I had the opportunity to, actually, I couldn't make it to the event because I ended up getting sick, but the work that you did to make sure that our unhoused individual through ARPA funds was getting paid to make sure that they have a second chance. You know, I know me, you, and Dr. Mahdi, we got a date in a few weeks. So I look forward to it. You know, we can have some real conversations, and, you know, like to you and Neil and Dr. Mahdi, I got your back 110%. I love you, and it's just been such an honor to be able to work with you in the space that you have been in and to help our young people. And I just thank you for the way that you lead. Thank you so much, Freddie.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Unfortunately, I wasn't here early enough, but I when I got in my car, I began to hear Ms. McGlown speak, and I felt like I was in church. When I tell you, it's a beautiful testimony to all of the things that you've done. You praise the people who helped you to do the things you've done. Slate has a very dear place in my heart. As one of 12 children, my first job was through Slate. It was the first time that I had been afforded the opportunity to have a coat that was my coat first. And I will never forget that Slate did that for me. They set the foundation for good work ethic, coming to work on a regular basis, being ready to work when you arrive, doing the job that you swore an oath to do. And I'm going to give a lot of that credit to Slate. Ma'am, I thank you so much. And the books that you've written, I'm looking for more. And just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion?
I just want to make note, Dr. Mahdi actually referenced this earlier, similar to public health, when economic development and when, agencies like Slate do well, they become a citation. When they don't do well, we fail. And, we talked about the youth program, and that's something that's near and dear to me. It's something that I helped start one down in the old 25th Ward that eventually became St. Louis Youth Jobs. And I remember when I first got elected back in 2009 during the Obama administration, we had millions of dollars that were coming in for youth employment and struggling to meet the need. We had young people that were being pooled in as applicants into the program but weren't getting paychecks. They weren't getting the training. So the program became a headline as to how things don't work and what a failure it could be, instead of focusing on the operations and making sure that the success of the program, as Alderwoman Keyes just said, becomes a citation. And the work that you have been doing, I cannot reiterate this enough, has made sure that it sets the example for what we should be doing with Slate. And, it's remarkable to me the conviction, the courage, the commitment that these three individuals have brought, not only to the city, but to their jobs. And again, I have to reiterate my thanks from the bottom of my heart to you as well for that dedication that you have had to the city of St. Louis. So thank you for indulging me, my colleagues.
There's a theme here today, and I think that theme is vision. I mean, Freddie, as Alderman Cohn said, you took Slate from an entity that did not have a lot of vision into something that is actually making a difference in our workforce in St. Louis. And I think today we are seeing Slate fulfill the promise that it always had, but didn't have the leadership behind it to get there. And I know that we are going to be fighting as a board to make sure that everything that you have worked to institutionalize there stays, that we continue the innovative programming that is bringing jobs to where people are and is getting them the training that they need to get, as Alderman Aldridge said, living wage jobs, not just a job, but one that they can sustain a family on, that has health care, that has time off, that has things that a lot of us take for granted every day. So your impact is going to be felt for a very long time, and this board is going to make sure that your impact is felt for a very long time. And whatever you do next, know that I'm going to be right there with you. Always will be here as a resource and a listening ear. You have been wonderful to work with, and I wish you so well in your next endeavors. And so with that, if we could ask all of our honored guests to come over, and we'll get a picture over here on the steps.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar. Oh, Alderwoman from the... Sorry, your mic's not on, Alderwoman.
It is. Okay, now.
There you go.
Okay, I had asked that I had resolution 13 be read. So do you want to pass it first and then read it, or read it before we pass the...
We'll read it first.
Resolution number 13, honoring Martha Jane West. Whereas Martha Jane West was born May 12, 1932 in Dyer, Tennessee, to Clara and John West, one of 5 siblings born to the union, and whereas Martha R. Jane, as some called her, attended elementary school and graduated from high school in Dyer, Tennessee in 1949, after which she moved to Nashville, Tennessee that same year to attend Tennessee State University, graduating in 1953 with a bachelor's degree in elementary education. And whereas while a student at Tennessee State University, Martha visited her adult cousins in St. Louis, Missouri. During the visit, Martha started working at the Federal Defense Plant making bullets. She kept the job every summer until she graduated college. After graduating from her beloved Tennessee State University, Martha moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where she lived in the 5100 block of Greer in the Kingsway West neighborhood until her death. And whereas in St. Louis, Martha found employment at the Nursery Foundation. It was the first integrated nursery school in St. Louis. Martha then began her career as a teacher of the trainable and severely handicapped special education students. She retired from this position after 40 years of service as an employee of the St. Louis County school system. And whereas Martha attended Methodist and Presbyterian churches in Dyer, Tennessee while growing up and was baptized at Cloris Chapel Presbyterian Church around the age of 9. She joined Lane Tabernacle Methodist in St. Louis, Missouri in 1960, where she served until her health failed. At Lane, she was a long-term member of the Trustee Auxiliary Club and the Kitchen Committee. She also visited the sick and shut-in, called the elderly, delivered food to shelters, and collected clothes for the needy. And whereas Martha was active in her local community and in national politics, she, along with her lifelong friend Lois Jean Turner, attended the National Democratic Convention as a delegate when Jesse Jackson ran as Democratic Convention candidate for President of the United States. In 2008, Martha was able to cast her vote for Barack Obama for president and went on to see him sworn in January 2009. And whereas Martha was a member of the NAACP, Coalition of Black Trade Unions, Organization of Black Struggle, and Tennessee State University Alumni Association. She was a frequent caller to the Onion Harden radio show advocating for the rights of African Americans. Also, she and Lois regularly attended St. Louis Public School Board's meetings and almost got arrested while protesting the closure of the renowned Homer G. Phillips Hospital. And whereas to refer to Martha as active in her community is an understatement. She lived in the Kingsway West neighborhood in the beloved 20th Ward for 62 years. She began a precinct captain for the 20th Ward, registering neighbors to vote. She used to boast that everyone who lived in the 20th Ward was registered to vote. And whereas Martha loved to attend dances held by various social clubs, she also attended many sororities and fraternity events and award dinners and gatherings on the famous Admiral River boat. She took great pride in being the #1 booster for TSU. At the annual fundraiser dinner dance, others would sell tickets to fill a table or two by Martha, who would always be recognized for selling the most tickets and filling over 10 to 15 tables. And whereas Sunday, March 30th, 2025, God called Martha home to everlasting peace. She passed peacefully in Ocean Spring, Mississippi, surrounded by family after a lengthy illness. She was preceded in death by her parents, John and Clara West, her sisters, Ida Mae and Simone West, and her brothers, Dorsey and Walter West. And whereas Martha leaves behind a legacy of love and faith, cherished by her nephew, Pete West, Biloxi, Mississippi, great nieces and nephews, sister-in-law, Fannie West, Mississippi, Tennessee, special family members and friends, a host of cousins, friends, and associates, her church family, and her St. Louis City political family and legacy, the 20th Ward, Alderman Stephen Roberts, Sr., State Senator Stephen Roberts, Jr., City Comptroller Darlene Green, License Controller Mavis Thomas, Committeeman Sterling S. Miller, and Alderwoman Sharon Tice, to name a few. And wisdom and kindness will be deeply missed by all who knew and loved her, as written in 2 Timothy 4:7, I have fought a good fight, I have finished my course, and I have kept the faith. Now she receives his well-earned crown of righteousness. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that this honorable board pause in our deliberation to join the sponsor of this resolution in expressing her deepest sympathy to the family of Miss Martha Jane West upon her passing. We instruct the clerk of this honorable Board of Aldermen to prepare a properly inscribed copy of this resolution to be present to the family of Miss Martha Jane West at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced on the 9th day of May 2025 by the Honorable Sharon Tyus, Alderwoman of the 12th Ward, and Shameen Clark Hubbard of the 10th Ward. Adopted this 9th of May 2025, attested by Terry Kennedy, Clerk of the Board of Aldermen, and Megan Green, President of the Board of Aldermen.
Alderwoman.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I thought this was important to read. To know Martha was to love her. But Martha didn't love me when I first met her because I ran against her beloved Steve Roberts. And for about 12 or 15 years, Martha did not love Sharon Tyus. So whoever ran against me, she supported that other person. And the next day after I won, she would call me and say, let's get to work. And finally, she said, okay, you're a good alderperson, and I'm going to forgive you for running against my beloved Steve Roberts. And that was because years ago, Steve Roberts Sr. and I had made up, and we were friends, but she could just not ever let that go. And so then became a love affair between myself, her, and other people who worked in the community. Martha loved this community. This Monday, she would have been 93 years of age. She was an activist. She cared about things. She was crushed she's one of the people that was crushed and whose voting rights were taken away when they tore up the 20th Ward. She called herself a member of the 20th Ward to her dying day. She never gave that number up. And in fact, when the current mayor came to a meeting we had in November, the people there let her know that they still call themselves the real 20th Ward. And Mayor Spencer laughed about that. He told him, well, Sharon Tyus never let that go. Martha cared about the school system. She cared about everything. She cared about Homer G. Phillips. She cared about so many things that she spent all her time trying to help people understand rights that she and other people that went before us had fought for to get. It was important to her that we build on civil rights, not see them go away. She was elated to vote for Barack Obama on two occasions, and she was very disappointed to find out twice we elected the current president of the United States. But she still always participated. Martha will be missed. And next Friday at 2 o'clock, there will be a memorial service at 2:30. I encourage people to come to this. I will be presenting not only this resolution, but also something hopefully from the mayor's office, the congressman's office, the state senator's office, because Martha had a lot of friends that she reached out to. She and Miss Ollie Stewart are some of the most active seniors I've ever seen in my life at 93 years of age. And so I invite you to come and pay tribute to this wonderful, wonderful woman who taught me a lot about politics, taught a lot of other people about politics. In fact, Mavis Thompson tells the same story as I did. When Steve Roberts and Freeman Bosley ran for mayor, Mavis and I supported Freeman, and Martha was with her beloved Steve Roberts. And afterwards, Freeman won, how we all ended up friends with Martha. And when Mavis actually became the circuit clerk, she called Martha to help her, and Martha helped her take Freeman's place. And Martha and her became lifelong friends. And Mavis actually visited her and looked after her and spoke to her final dying days. And in fact, I spoke with Mavis about Martha. Something made me call Mavis. And she said, Martha's not doing well. And it was the next day that she passed. Fortunate in my life to have people who are so grounded and who were willing to help train me and also correct me if I was doing something wrong, that I was fortunate enough to be able to listen to when people were telling me, this is not the correct way to do things. And I'm thankful that for 30-something years, I got to know Martha in a political way. And she will greatly be missed by all of us who live in the Kingsway East, Kingsway West, Penrose, but the city at large, the St. Louis Public Schools, just so many things that she was involved at. I just wanted this resolution to be read to give honor and tribute to this magnificent Black woman. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries, barely. Introduction of honored guests. Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the board. I would like to ask that we have a moment of silence for firefighter Corey McBride, who tragically lost his life this week, having served 20 years to our St. Louis City Fire Department, to his community, to his family, with an unwavering love that has been shared by many of people who are hurting at this time. So again, I'm asking for a moment of silence for firefighter Corey McBride.
If everyone could rise for a moment of silence for firefighter Corey McBride. Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman from the elevated 11th.
Elevated 11. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Vice Chair, Vice President. I always get the title wrong. King for a day. But anyway, my honored guests today are all mothers across this great land. And as always, I bring a Mother's Day card for every woman in the room. Again, I want to remind you that having produced a person does not necessarily take away your ability to mother. Mothering is an action word. It's not necessarily because you've helped to bring a life in. And so I honor all of my sisters here and across the elevated 11th ward who should be receiving their Mother's Day card shortly. I thank you for pouring into the lives of young people, be it your own or others, by way of being teachers, aunts, you know, you name it. We can go down a long list of how women constantly give and give and give to us as a society. I would also like to have as my honored guests the men, women, and children of Pathways to Health who were here this week. They finished up their mission yesterday. I was honored to spend a great part of a day with them on Wednesday. They made me an honorary member of the women's health team and gave me a shirt. And it was so wonderful to know that all of those people there providing those services, and they were wide-ranging, every level of health, mental health, women's health, pediatric, podiatry, you name it, they were covering it. And they did this at their own expense. They were not paid to be here. This is part of their ministry that they go across the country doing these great health benefits to society for people who are either underinsured or underinsured. So they too are my honored guests today. Lastly, all of the people of the elevated 11th Ward, I thank you for your continued support. We've got great work to continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the board. I'd like to have my honored guest be Mr. Joseph Palm, my new legislative assistant. I've met him in City Hall back in 1997, I believe it was. He was working for Clarence Harmon. We've been friends for a long time. I've watched him get his education, get a master's in public health, work for a governor, work for a president, all Democrats. And now I get the honor of having to work with him to help me address the 7 senior buildings I have in my community, and also the many, many seniors that live in the 12th Ward. I introduce to you Mr. Joseph Palm.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President and members of the board. First of all, my first honored guest is my grandmother, who is watching now. Mother's Day is coming up, and we always do something with all of us. So happy Mother's Day to you. Happy Mother's Day to all the others who you're watching this meeting with. I think she told me that she's got a little group congrued on her floor, and they're all tuned in. Happy Mother's Day to my mother and all of the mothers. I know we have mothers here that are parts of this board and that have helped to raise and steward our children. I also want to have as my honored guest Ms. Pam Ross, who is here today. Ms. Pam Ross has served in a number of capacities. She was Chief of Staff to Jim Shrewsbury. She was on the Board of Trustees for St. Louis Community College. I've gotten to know her through the many work that she does in public health and reproductive justice space and domestic violence. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for your time of service to us. Yes, and I just also just wanted to have, as one of my honored guests, we have a facility that is likely going to be closing in the 7th Ward that was a place for senior citizens, sort of an independent living center. But with the climate that we're in politically, the cost of everything is rising. Staff members need to be paid more. Social Security is still staying the same, even as everything else rises and federal cuts happen. Unfortunately, I was not able to find many measures that I could do as Alderwoman, but certainly want to uplift that. I know this is an issue that many places in our community will be facing, and that is a group of, grandmothers, grandfathers, grandparents who are going to have to find new places to relocate, and also a lot of staff who will no longer, will have to search for employment opportunities. So I would like to have them as my honored guests as well.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, May 2nd, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Members of the board, I move that we approve the minutes from Friday, May 2nd, 2025.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we approve our meeting minutes from Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, C, and D of the agenda and is placed in a Google Drive for your review.
Petitions and communications.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 8. Board bills for perfection.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 9. Board bills for third reading and formal calendar.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 10. Resolutions and formal calendar.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 11. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill number 11, introduced by Alderwoman Board and an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, appropriating to the Department of Health funds received by the City of St. Louis pursuant to national opioid settlement agreements, authorizing the expenditure of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend such funds to the extent received, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill number 12, introduced by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing the Department of Health to accept the local public health agency accreditation assistant grant award up to $239,890 from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, appropriating such funds to the Department of Health, authorizing the expenditure of such funds to fulfill the obligations of said grant to the extent that such funds are received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend such funds to extent received, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill number 13, introduced by Alderwoman Sanier, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 58239, approved February 19, 1981, which previously vacated the east-west alley located between St. Vincent and Park Avenue on the 27 block, city block of 2150. This ordinance restores all public surface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel to the City of St. Louis pertaining this tract. Board Bill number 14, introduced by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing the Department of Public Safety to accept the 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant award of up to $351,935 from the U.S. Department of Justice, appropriating such funds to the Department of Public Safety, authorizing the expenditure of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend such funds to the extent received, and containing an emergency clause. Sorry. Resolution number 15, introduced by Alderman Aldrich, pursuant to ordinance number 70333 and amended by ordinance number 71394. The Director of Streets is hereby directed to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 14th Ward. That is the extent of the first reading of board bills.
Reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To the Health and Human Development, Board Bill number 11 and number 12. Public Infrastructure and Utilities, Board Bill number 13 and 15. Public Safety, Board Bill number 14. That is the extent of reference to Committee of Board Bills.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 14. Report of special committees.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 15. Board bills for perfection and consent.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 16. Board bills for perfection.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 17. Report of engrossment.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 18. Third reading and final passage of board bills consent.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 19. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 20. Report of finally passed and signed by the President.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 21. First reading of resolutions in reference to committee.
Resolution number 12, introduced by Alderwoman Schweitzer, recognizing May as Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis Awareness Month. This is the...
Oh, sorry. Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized on the first reading of resolution number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Members of the board, I ask for unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, please proceed, Alderwoman.
Thank you. I move that we adopt resolution number 12.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st and seconded by the Alderman from the 14th that we adopt resolution 12. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. As the resolution states, this is recognizing May as ALS Awareness Month, often referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. This is something that constituents in my ward reached out to me and asked for us to take a moment to recognize May as ALS Awareness Month, simply because of the number of families in my neighborhood, and I'm sure across the city, that this has affected. I personally have friends who've lost their parents to this disease, neighbors who've lost their lives, and family members to this, and it really is something to see and witness, and I hope that none of us ever experience this in our lives and never have immediate families who are affected. But it is something that it is important to note the research that's been done and the work that's being done to fight back against this disease and to make sure that people are aware of the effects, and that there are many people in our community who are suffering with this every day, whether it's them themselves or family members that are dealing with it. Normally, once the diagnosis occurs, people live less than 5 years. So it is something that is very traumatic to a family and changes people's lives quite immediately. So thank you for your time and letting me speak on this today.
Any further discussion on resolution number 12? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the board. I want to thank Alderwoman Schweitzer for bringing this resolution forward and make the motion that we pass it in bank.
Is there any objection? Or, I'm sorry, it's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th that we pass resolution 12 in bank. It's been seconded by the Alderman from the 7th. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any further discussion on resolution number 12? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Saunier. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldrich. President Green. Alderman Devotie. Alderwoman Boyd. President Green. We have 11 aye votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the first and have adopted Resolution 12. Second reading of resolutions, committee reports, and adoptions.
We have none.
Please dispense with line item 23, miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Monday, May 12th, 2025, Budget and Public Employee in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. Tuesday, May 13th, Budget and Public Employee in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. Wednesday, May 14th, Budget and Public Employee in the Kennedy Room, 9:30 a.m. Public Infrastructure and Utilities in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Personnel in the Kennedy Room at 2 p.m. Thursday, May 15th, Budget and Public Employee in the Kennedy Room at 9:30. Friday, May 16th, full board meeting in the chambers. And Saturday, May 17th at 10 a.m., Thomas Dunn Learning Center. We will have a budget and employee meeting for the public.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I was going to announce all the budget meetings, but I want to thank our amazing clerk, Ms. Ora, who stepped in today to make sure that those meetings are public, but really want to highlight the one, not this Saturday, but May 17th, which will be again at 10 a.m. It will be another opportunity for the public to come and testify on the budget. This budget committee is making sure that we have 4 public meetings. This would be the second one at Thomas Dunn Learning Center. And I also want to wish all the mothers across the region, but throughout the world, a happy Mother's Day. There's nothing like a mother love. You only get one, so please take the time to love on them, hug on them, kiss on them. And if I could just take 2 minutes, I would like to just kind of talk about or state this poem. Mama, I love you for all that you do. I'll kiss you and hug you because you love me too. You fed me and needed me to teach you to play. So smile because I love you on this Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful moms out there.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman from the 9th. Oh, okay. Any further announcements? I would like to just take a personal moment, and this is the first time I've had the opportunity to preside over this body in the new session. I want to thank you all for your support, not only in the electing me as vice president, but throughout the course of this meeting. And I would also like to acknowledge 3rd Ward resident Ora Heggs, our assistant clerk, for her work today. She doesn't typically stand at the mic, so I know today was a pretty lengthy meeting with resolutions, so thank you for being so diligent and wonderful at what you've done today. Thank you, Ora.
Thank you.
And with that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the board. All members were present this.
Wonderful. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Friday, May 16th, 2025 in the Board of Aldermen chamber.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th, that we adjourn until Friday, May 16th, 2025 in the Board of Aldermen chamber at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, we stand adjourned. Too late.